Okay, so what is the second theme that I'm considering for next year? And this is an interesting one because this is something that I've only really been playing around with for maybe a week, maybe less. And the theme is very different from the idea of turning pro, which was the front runner for most of the last few months when it comes to thinking about my yearly theme. This theme is actually something that's way more focused on service. And I was talking to a friend about my year theme this year, which was the year of gratitude and feeling happier in my life. And they were talking about how they've been focusing on being of service, and not only of service to others, but of service of ideas or missions or movements that they feel strongly to. And they felt like this gave them a lot of happiness and meaning, and ultimately has transformed the way that they have been moving through their life. And it's been extremely nourishing for them. And as I thought about this idea of dedicating yourself to being of service of others, and I totally understood that. And I also really resonated with it. I felt that there was an idea around turning pro, which even the professional athletes are in service of something. And they are, in a way, in service of themselves and in service of excellence in their own craft. But also, I think that they love it. They love their sport or their craft, and they are also in service of that craft. I think someone who is trying to achieve excellence in, let's say, basketball is not only in service of the team and trying to really pull the team to achieve something, but they are also in service of basketball itself. They want to push the sport or the craft or the art form in a direction as a somewhat out of love for the craft or sport in itself. And I think all of that is in an act of love, and being able to really dedicate yourself to being of service is a way to express a form of love. And I think that all of that was extremely compelling to me as a year theme, being of service, the year of service maybe. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like these two themes, they aren't mutually exclusive, because I think that the year of turning pro is in some ways being of service to the craft itself, and also of yourself, to give yourself the ability to show up like a professional every day consistently, and show up for the people that you work with, show up for your family, show up for everyone in your life. And I think that can manifest, the being of service can manifest through the year theme of turning pro. But I also think that there is a specificness to being of service. And I think there are ways in which you would make different decisions if you were at a crossroad, given these two different dispositions. If one was to be of service, you may drop things in terms of trying to pursue excellence or greatness around the specific things that you're trying to achieve, if the theme was turning pro, in order to be of service to people around you. And that's not to say that if you're turning pro, you'd be entirely selfish, but you might want to protect the craft that you are trying to cultivate way more. I wonder how those two things would play out. And I think that that's the nitty-gritty difference between these two themes. I think there is a way in which you could combine them and talk about turning pro as a way of turning pro at being of service. But I think that's a cop-out. I think it really muddies the idea of the year theme and the disposition that you're trying to cultivate. The other reason why I really have been compelled by this idea of being of service to others is because I think that I watched this video recently, and they were talking about this study that Harvard did, where they followed like 300 people across their entire life. I think it was called the Grant study or something. And basically they followed these people across their entire life to try and understand what it was that made people happy. And ultimately the thing that made them happy is the depth and breadth of their emotional connections with other people in their life, their familial relationships, their friends, their community. And all of that comes from, in some way, being grateful for the people in your life, but also being of service to them, to connect with them more deeply. And I think all of that is really important. And I think that is an extremely nourishing thing. In a way, it's like the only thing that is a self-perpetuating cycle. It's the what's it called, the eternal engine. I can't remember, but basically it sustains itself forever, and it doesn't need another fuel source, because the being of service of others and finding meaning in your life is the most important thing. So those are all of the reasons why I am considering this other theme that has come up in the last few days. And I think that finding meaning in your work and finding meaning through others and dedicating yourself to serving the people around you is an incredible way to just deepen your life and deepen the satisfaction that you feel in your life. And I think that all of these things are really, really important and somewhat more important than a year where I try and achieve greatness. And in a way, I can still achieve greatness and achieve great things. I don't think I'm really planning on achieving greatness. That's just something that Timothy Chalamet said. But trying to achieve the best outcomes that I can like I would in the year of turning pro, where I would show up every day and just be consistent to try and improve and configure my life in a way to try and achieve specific outcomes, or at least put in 100% of the work and put all the cards on the table. So I know that I'm not wondering what my potential is. I'm really throwing it all out there. I think I can still do that if my year was the year of service, because I think that some of those things are going to be done in service of others. The people that I work with, if I was to show up as a pro and just really smash it next year, I think that I could also do that if my year theme was turning pro, or if my year theme was being of service, because being of service to my team and being the best that I can be in order for my team to flourish, with Sabrina and Melissa at Arms in Progress, or with my community and my friends, all of those things, that can be done from a perspective of turning pro, but it can also be done from a perspective of being of service to others. And this is the thing that I'm sort of battling with. When I think about the smaller goals that I have for the year, which theme gets me there? And ultimately, I think that both of them do, but they get me there in different ways and in different routes through different motivations. And I'm just not sure exactly which one to go for. Maybe I'll watch both of these videos back and I will be really clear on exactly which one is the one I should go with. But right now I'm really struggling. I'm really struggling to figure out which one is the one that feels right for me. And ultimately, I will probably make a decision that is somewhat of a compromise. Maybe I'll find some language that unites the driving force between both of these. I think for me, the year of service continues on from the year of gratitude, in that it is really a nourishing force in my life and the emotional development of myself. And whereas turning pro is this idea that I'm always wondering is, could I have done more? And what is my potential? And I just wonder, as I get a little bit older and I get into the later half of my 20s, maybe this is the time. I think that the first half of your 20s is really about just figuring it out, just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But the second half of your 20s, I think you have more of an idea of what you're doing, and you have the rest of your life, but you also are in this great period where you're just super motivated to do stuff. At least that's my experience. And you have some context and some experience that you can actually work on rather than feeling super lost. And I think that I don't want to wonder for too much longer whether or not I have more to give and whether or not I'm not reaching my full potential. I want to give it the old college try. I really want to give it 100%. And I think that a year like the year of turning pro would get me there. So I'm really, really conflicted between these two, and I'm just not sure. I think that I've really considered the year of turning pro a lot more, but the year of service is super compelling. And when I think about the things that I've been reading about recently around happiness and motivation, all of this seems to be around this idea of being of service. And you can also be in service of ideas and people and a bunch of things, and one of those ideas could be turning pro, but that would be subsumed under a broader theme of being of service to a greater idea or other people. And that's the conflict that I'm having. This is another theme that maybe I could do next year, but I'm not sure. And so that's my little thinking. But I'm recording both of these videos at the same time because I'm not going to be able to film anything tomorrow, and I know that, so I'm doing that now. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. I would be interested to hear what other people think about this, and also what people have for their own yearly themes or resolutions or whatever. But that was a little look into my thought process on how I'm really trying to consider what next year looks like. And yeah,